Maybe we should.
I don't think either of them are the thing. The thing is dead, but the damage is already done. The erosion of trust cannot be reversed. Even if survival were possible, these two men no longer have the ability to work together to achieve it.
Did you know I was personally dragged into the whistleblowing about the sexual abuse, trafficking of vulnerable women at the nonprofit organization with a false accusation by the female central to my story? I had support from some famous people like...
One man told me about being beaten by the police and left permanently disabled because of a woman's false allegation.
Poor people started identifying with billionaires instead of each other. And the elite could do whatever they wanted because there was no organized opposition. Because somewhere in your mind, you think you might be rich someday, and you don't want the government taking your imaginary money. There's this deep contempt, and it's not just rich people who feel this way. Working class people feel this way about people just slightly below them, okay? Everyone is looking down at someone. And everyone is terrified of becoming the person they're looking down at. They brag about it. I work 60 hours a week. I haven't taken a vacation in 3 years. I'm a hard worker.
Hello, it's January 2026. Now, over the many years, and even recent years, I've talked about, for example, how everything is a lie. Literally everything is a lie. And what I find really interesting, for example, with the truther and freedom types specifically, is how they claim to be aware, or awake, whatever, of this fact. However, they do pick and choose on which lies they want to accept. They'll see a whole barrage of lies, but then there's something that, as they say, resonates with them, makes them feel good, and go with it. And I just can't wrap my head around it, because literally everything that we've been told, history, everything, just full of untruths. And this is where we're at today. When you look at, for example, and I've highlighted even recently, influencers. And a lot of these influencers that are being called out now, I highlighted, say, 10 years ago. And people didn't want to listen. And I got ridiculed, mocked, attacked, everything, whatever descriptive you want to use, because I was saying, hey, listen, don't fall for these people. And now people are starting to go, wait a second. And even this whole thing with, for example, and I'm not going to talk about him, but the late Charlie Kirk, specifically his wife, and how there's a lot of craziness going on now that she's taken over his business. Now, this ties in with the topic here, because how many people still support the late Charlie Kirk and say, well, he was surrounded by vipers and evil, wicked people? They're assuming that he wasn't in on it, or at least partly. They're still accepting that there's some truth that they've accepted in all this, rather than just saying, hey, listen, you know, 99% of this is nonsense. 100% is nonsense. And it's all a reality TV show. And now she seems to be going totally against the complete opposite of what he wanted, for example. Like with this Nicki Minaj or whatever her name is and everything else. Now, I'm not speaking ill about her or his wife or anyone. I don't know these people, never met them, never talked to them, whatever. But I'm just simply trying to highlight some things here. And people are still going on about all these anomalies. But now what we're starting to see, people going, wait a second, there's something really going on here after some time has gone by. We also see, for example, wars. And really a lot of people who want to join the military, and I was one of them, and who go fight some war in a faraway land, and whatever it is that they accomplished or didn't accomplish, or whatever the truth is behind all that, we see throughout history how all wars are based on lies, and why so many young, healthy, strong physically and mentally men were literally sacrificed. And when you look at the types of wars that were fought and the so-called strategies, it's like, this is crazy. You just look at, for example, D-Day, how they were just rushing these people from these boats to shore, and they were just getting mowed down. There were a lot better ways of trying to achieve a goal, a mission. But it was all a lie. There's something behind all this, and I'm not going to get into it. Some of you may have already known. Some of you may be on a journey to find out. I don't know. But this whole thing that's with war, whether it be historic or modern, it's all based on lies. And as we look into modern times with this so-called AI and everything, now so many people are going to AI for answers on all sorts of stuff, even personal stuff on how to, I don't know, conduct their life, a relationship, something like this. The AI is some, I don't know, divine inspired, all-knowing machine. People are putting their trust in these things, asking questions. And I've shown, and it's been proven, how AI manipulates human beings and lies to human beings on every single topic. And it really becomes an echo chamber once it figures you out what you want to hear. And people will still go to it and say, oh yeah, look at this AI is creating all this fake stuff and lying. But when I ask it about this, oh no, it's telling me the truth because it's telling me what I want to hear. This includes religions and belief systems. And this segues into, for example, how every decade, perhaps every year, if you kind of break it down to the micro, how everyone's talking about, oh, this is it, we're at this some sort of spiritual awakening, everyone's waking up spiritually, and we're going to some whatever their belief system or religion tells them. It's been going on. People have been saying this kind of stuff forever. And these spiritual gurus are simply telling people what they want to hear, whether it be religion or belief system or even atheists. And then people are drawn towards whatever it is that makes them feel good. Again, people are realizing that we live in a world of lies, and they're hanging on to stuff Say, well, no, but this is the truth. I have some sort of divine discernment. No, you don't. I've said this before. You don't. You're being manipulated, controlled. Just look at, for example, the studies made famous by Julia Shaw in planting false memories. The high percentage of people that can have false memories implanted very quickly. And then you have, for example, the works of Chase Hughes. How everyone, including himself, he admits it, can be psyoped. And you really think that you have some sort of discernment? Or that you're impervious to something or whatever? Everyone is prone to being manipulated. And it takes a lot of energy and a lot of effort not to be as much as everyone else. You pretty much have to dedicate your life to it. You have to be secluded, break away, literally, from society to have any chance of not being manipulated. And then this goes into, we can segue into what's called the American dream. If you work hard and, get high grades and everything else, you can succeed. If you want to be an actor, an actress, yes, you work hard and you get yourself in the right places and boom. When you look at these, for example, actors and actresses, very few come from nothing. But when you actually start digging into them, they're just like all these CEOs of these tech companies and everything else. They're all connected. Somehow they're connected, and usually through family or something, and they have an opportunity handed to them on a silver platter. And we all know, or should know, how, for example, all these presidents of the United States and all countries all around the world, all these leaders, prime ministers, stuff, how they're all connected. And they are selected by those with generational commitment and a monopoly on violence to take a role. So the whole world's a stage. So in these leaders and stuff, there's so much that can be said. Let's just take, for example, the different parties in a country that people can supposedly vote for. And they look at, we have control. You don't have no control. You're selected. And even if you had control through, say, for example, voting, somebody presents two different people to you and you're voting between the two, you didn't have control on the two that you're voting in, right? But the real control is not, for example, politicians and these bureaucrats and everyone else in parliament buildings and so forth who are making laws. The interpretation of laws, for example, by the courts, and how, for example, lawyers will argue laws and create a precedence and so forth. That's where the real power is, and none of these people you voted for. None. To work hard just means you're a good slave, which gets into this whole debt slavery thing. Just work hard, keep at it. And now people are starting to realize, wait a second, us being in a silent depression right now, and I've highlighted before how in the 1930s, adjusted for inflation, with one person working, that was a Great Depression, by the way, a household was bringing in around $76,000 a year, and they couldn't afford to live. Today, in 2026, the average household is making $56,000 a year. Put that in perspective. The whole American dream, just work hard and you can succeed. Everything, literally everything, is a lie. Like, so what's my point? What do you do about this? Accept nothing. Literally erase everything that you think you know. Clean the slate. But here's the catch. That's a heavy burden in a world where pretty much everyone may wake up to one or several things, only to slumber in something else while slumbering in everything else. You get it? Even if you were to clean the slate in your mind, not accept anything, that burden means you don't fit in. And who do you talk to without appearing completely crazy? Keep it to yourself, and then what? And what advantage does that give you? I'm saying this not to be a pessimist. Perhaps you can find something positive from this, from an optimist perspective. Things to think about. Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, comment, and share.
Their other followers, I guess on YouTube or wherever else they are, were supporting them and were supporting their behavior. Those guys are like the beta males of beta males. For some reason, people think that these guys are good American men. They're the furthest thing from American men. And then start repeating that narrative and how they believe in that narrative to their people. And their people, their subscribers, believe this.
In the 1840s alone, in America, there were over 80 experimental utopian cults that came out of this period with ideas about swapping gender roles, about a divine feminine. And some of these were even kind of like Protestant offshoot type of cults in communities that were experimenting with ideas of human liberation and these revolutionary ideas.
Just remember, I was one man against many. Fighting a losing battle, but I still fought to the end.
That means press on. That means endure. That means God cannot fail, and you're not going to give up. That's not an option for a child of God. This means you are going to be delivered. Listen to this and write it down if you can't remember it. You're never going to outgrow warfare. You simply must learn to fight. I hear people say, when is it going to get easier? When you die.